question came up on the channel, a comment on one of the videos, like if a security is up 12, 15% and you're coming into earnings, what do you do with the position? Again, for me, 12, 15%, I like to think, let me take a step back. It depends whose money it is, if it's my money or if it's client funds. Because I have client funds where they're using insane amounts of leverage. And so in that case, you're in a situation where if you smell smoke, you have to presume it's a 5-alarm fire, you see? If it's in a different quality of money with different degrees of leverage, you can give it more room. But again, I'm lucky enough to know what the math is, right? Ultimately, leverage is a sword that cuts both ways. And usually when things work against you, it can be very, very painful, right? But typically, I'll say generally speaking, if this is a coaching tip, my advice would be if the trade's winning, you have to really look at your equity curve, because I don't know what 12 or 15% means, right? If you have a 1% risk unit and it's up 10%, how does that move the needle on your account? Because that should be what is dictating your behavior. I don't agree with a lot of people who are micromanaging everything at the individual name. And I know where it comes from. It's because your accounts are small and you're only trading one name. But the goal is to grow your account, right? The goal is rate of return on your account, not rate of return on a name. At least that's the way I always looked at it. You might feel differently, and more power to you. But look and say, okay, well, I'm doing it my way. Am I getting the results that I want? Because I think you could psych yourself out of otherwise really, really good trades and offset winners at the end of the day, just because you have this predetermined notion that somehow only bad things can happen to you overnight, over the weekend. That is absolutely not my experience at all. And so when I see people offsetting trades too early, it's probably because their goals are not associated with a process, right? Or they're kind of too locked into, I want to be a day trader. Like, that's an interesting goal, right? I want to have red hair next year. But what's the process? You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, what is the process around what your goal is? To me, the goal should be to grow your money in order of, with a high order of magnitude, and make it life-changing money. Otherwise, if you're looking again, and we talked about this in the live stream, you can find yourself looking at trades where, you have $50 to $90 of expected value on a trade. Now, that I couldn't do that when I was younger, because the commissions would eat that up. Even though if the system was profitable, the cost of doing business was so high that the expected value would be negative or break even, meaning zero. So even though, and that was the frustrating part, is that you could find a model that worked, but it was so expensive to trade, like especially with stocks, right? And I've told the story a million times, so I won't repeat it here. But the last thing you want to do is find yourself in a trade where you have to offset the winner, because of your emotion. So my goal was very, very clear, is that I was going from blue collar, working jobs where the opportunity cost was very high. I'd go to work and I'd get paid for the day. I'd cut someone's lawn, I'd get paid. I'd wait tables, I'd get paid, go home with a pocket full of cash. Go to work at the golf course, go home with a pocket full of cash. And it was great because I was a hustler. I made a lot of money. I was making thousands of dollars, like a lot of money. But I knew that was as good as it was going to get, and I knew the opportunity cost was high, it is much that if I didn't go to work, I wasn't getting paid. There wasn't sick days, there wasn't benefits, there wasn't personal days. So the cash flowed when I hustled, but then that became physically and emotionally exhausting because I was always robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And I really couldn't get ahead. But the good news is that I didn't fall behind. I didn't take debts. I didn't use credit cards. I didn't screw up my credit history. And so I needed to find a way to have intellectual property. That was really what I wanted to do. And I remember it hit me. I was working as a waiter. I remember it was a Sunday. I was setting up for brunch. I'm in a tuxedo kind of outfit. I'm polishing silverware, which really meant use a wet rag to take off soap stains. That's polishing, so that the client doesn't, this is dirty. And and I heard the dentist office kind of Muzak version of Yesterday by the Beatles coming through the music that was the house music that was playing. And it hit me because I knew the song. I had played it a million times. I'm sure we played it live. I auditioned for things with it. So I knew the song cold, but it hit me as like, man, Paul McCartney's getting paid for this. And I don't care if it's nickel, 2 cents, 10 cents a quarter. I don't know what royalty rates are for this type of a deal, but I knew he's getting paid. And, I was in New York. He was probably in England at the time, the UK. And I was just thinking, man, like if this is happening how many thousand times a day where he's just collecting these types of royalties, like that's pretty amazing. I need to find a way to create my own version of intellectual property for myself. And I didn't even know what that was going to be, right? Because I wasn't even finished with college at the time. But I knew in my brain, like, because I had already seen, like, I'm at work, right? I'm putting in all these hours. And, I don't mind doing it because I needed the money. But I needed to find a way to create something that was going to help me, grow my cash, right? Because either you work for your money or your money works for your money. So I didn't know if I was going to be a songwriter. I didn't know if I was going to even write a book. Because this is 20 years before Inner Voice of Trading, probably, for example. So it's funny how intentions equal results in a longer term time frame. The point being is that you can do the same thing. Like you can put yourself in a spot where you can make life-changing money. So instead of saying something like terribly flaccid, like I'm trying to make money in the marketplace, I think if that's where your consciousness is, that's really what you're going to focus on all the time. And you're going to get those kinds of results where you're constantly trying. I'm trying to make money. Market doesn't care what you're trying to do. What you need to learn to do is to stay out of your own way and start thinking in the present tense. And that I can't get into the coaching session here because it would be a 45-minute lecture. The point being is that sometimes we're not our own worst enemy, but we need to get out of our own way. And a lot of that times it's because of the emotions that you're unwilling to feel. And the quickest way you can make a lot more money is to stop thinking that you're going to scalp with a tiny, tiny account and think about holding on to your winners longer. Because when the moves are underway, yeah, so what if it's choppy? You're saying a truism, but Mike, the volatility's high. So what? What does that mean? Like you need volatility to make money, right? So again, look at the expected value of a trade and then figure out like what are you making every day in terms of where the minimum wage is where you live. In California, it's $15, right? If you work at a quick service restaurant, it's 20. And so what you don't want to do is turn your trading career into making minimum wage. Because yes, it's probably better to be sitting in front of a screen, trading your own money, doing it that way from a quality of life standpoint. But you're not going to make life-changing money making minimum wage. And that should hit you right here, right between the eyes, right here. So you have to get out of that small-minded way of thinking, even if your account is small, because your goal at that point is to not scale up your trading size so much, but to grow your equity in your account. You have to trade your equity curve. So if trades are working out for you, stick with them, let them grow. They kind of want to. Imagine sun is shining on them and it's trying to pull, the flowers and the leaves closer to the sun. Let it go. Let the thing run for you so that you can grow your account. I knew I had no breathing room with 5K. So making tiny gains, it felt good for about 5 seconds on the dopamine hit side, but I was always shoveling sand against the tide to have it wash back up against me, and I couldn't make any ground. So if you look at and watch the replay of the live stream as well as Monday's episode where I talk about progressive exposure, I knew I had to endure and learn to live with those strong feelings of the uncertainty of what could happen to me overnight, over the weekend. And the truth is, nothing happened. There weren't these cataclysmic moves. I never got locked in limit moves. I had them happen to me, but we're talking 2 times over 36 years. You have to feel very foolish if that's what you're worried about. And if you're position sizing the right way, I wrote about this in the Inner Voice of Trading, by the way. You can get the free audiobook. The link is in the description. I was in cattle and Mad Cow hit the tape and it was locked against me, I think 4 or 5 days. I can't remember. That's how insignificant it was. And it was a limit move against me, but my position sizing was set up in such a way that it never really hurt me. I probably gave up 2-3% on my overall equity. So you need to put things into perspective and stop overthinking things. Trading should be simple, it should be easy, it should become effortless. You add risk, you remove risk. Stop thinking when you're inside the trade because you're too new when you're starting out to really know how to bring any additional value to the trade once you're in it. That's when you turn off the screen, you put in your protective stop, and you walk away. Let the market do the work. The market, your stops will get hit. The brokers are incented to get paid, right? Anyway, like this video, check out this one.